My topic for today is empathy. Okay, so a fundamental question for all of you guys. What is empathy? As defined by the Oxford Dictionary, empathy is the ability to feel and share and understand emotions of another. It's actually putting yourself in someone else's shoes. There are 4 key aspects to empathy. As you can see, firstly, putting yourself in someone else's shoes and understanding their world. Secondly, understanding their feelings, emotions, and their context. Thirdly, accepting them non-judgmentally. That's really important. And fourthly, and most importantly, communicating your understanding. And now I'd like to tell you that sympathy and empathy are not the same thing. It's a common misconception that they're synonymous, but they're actually very, very different. Sympathy is pity and sorrow for someone else's misfortune. But empathy, on the other hand, is connection, is human connection. And trying to find parallels in your life so you can relate with someone else. Sympathy drives disconnection, but empathy fuels human connection. Now, I must warn you at this point about some problems and some traps you might fall into, thinking that they might be empathy. Follow me from the bottom left of the picture. So firstly, there's the even worse mentality. You know, putting things into perspective. For example, my friend's dog is missing, and my dog has died. By me telling him my dog has died, that's even worse. At least yours is still alive. That's not going to help him. Secondly, the showing the silver lining or looking on the bright side mentality. By saying, oh, you know, looking on the bright side, your problem isn't that bad. But how's that going to help the person whose problem it is? It's not going to make anything better. And lastly, giving unsolicited solutions or problem solving. Empathy doesn't look to make things better. It doesn't look to make things appear better than they actually are. So rarely can your response make a difference in the problem the person is facing still. Just listening and being a good listener is important. Coming to how empathy relates to me. As the philosopher Mikhail Bakhtin said, to be means to communicate, and to be means to be for another, and through the other for oneself. We are Homo empathicus, and to empathize and to connect is soft-wired in our brains. Coming to something very close to my heart, the Interact Club in school. The Interact Club has taught me the power of empathy. Through the Interact Club, I've had a brilliant opportunity for 3 years now to volunteer for a center for women with Down syndrome called Om Creations. Over there, through meeting them and seeing the life through their world, stringing torans, making bags and wrapping chocolates with them, I've really been able to improve my ability to listen and to communicate and to understand their problems from their view. Coming to school, there are 2 aspects of empathy that I see in school. Firstly, empathy between classmates, and secondly, empathy in a student-teacher relationship. So for example, I might have done well in a test, and my friend might not have, or the other way around. But if I were to go and tell my achievement to my friend who hadn't done that well, that wouldn't be very caring of me. And in the same situation, I wouldn't like it if my friend told me and I had done badly. So I think it's important that we understand what somebody is going through before saying our own achievements and telling them about what all we've done. Secondly, in a student-teacher relationship, it's really important for both to be empathic. So, for example, again, in my class, not a lot of people particularly like biology, but they respect the teacher. And this respect for the teacher is due to empathy. Empathy reflects in both the student and the teacher, and sometimes even in the grades of the student. Next, coming to friends. Friends are those who make bad times good and good times unforgettable. It's really important to understand the needs of your friends and sometimes to put their needs in front of your own. It's difficult, but you should try. And this will strengthen your relationship with your friends. So for example, another example, sorry. One of my friends told me about something really bad that happened to him. But nothing of that sort had happened to me. And I couldn't find any parallel in my life to try to relate to him, but I just listened. I sat there and listened and thanked him for sharing that information with me. And I gave him a hug. Sometimes that's all you need. Coming to family. From a very young age, I've learned to be empathic through my family. My family has taught me to be empathic by being empathic towards me. I've learned the value of human relationships from my family's relation with me and with people outside the family. My parents, grandparents, and sister know what I feel even before I have to say anything. Now, there's an observation I'd like to make, is my generation's lack of acknowledgement to people who are a daily part of our lives and help making it better, like our helpers and watchmen and other many more people. And because of our lack of acknowledgement, they're almost used to being ignored. I think it's important that we make a conscious effort to say hi, thank you, and be courteous to all of them. And you'll see the difference in them. They'll feel so good that in turn, they'll also ask you how you are, and they'll want to greet you. And this big loop of empathy is the reason why our species has survived and will continue to survive. Empathy, therefore, is the basis of mutual coexistence. Coming to some more examples of empathy. Empathy is there, present, in the doctor-patient relationship. Essentially, a doctor's bedside manner is everything about the doctor. And it is really important for the doctor to be empathic. There was an interesting study that said that doctors on rounds who sat down next to their patients instead of standing were given a higher empathy score. And those patients who gave their doctors a higher empathy score showed faster improvements and a better standard of life. And now coming to the first sign of empathy in humans. It's a baby's tendency to cry when they hear another baby crying. So basically, there was another interesting study that said that babies cried the loudest when they heard another baby cry, rather than a computer simulation of the same and other as loud and startling noises. And okay, now I have a question to ask you. Okay, how many of you in movies have laughed or cried or felt any other emotion? Can I have a show of hands? I think that's all of you. And that's actually your brain's ability to empathize with the characters in the movie and their situations. Now coming to empathy in design thinking. Empathy is the first step in innovation. You might ask what the job of an innovator is. The job of an innovator is to find a feasible solution to a widespread problem. But the only way they can find that solution is by being empathic, by empathizing with the people, to have a deeper understanding of the problem from the people's point of view, to be able to put yourself in their shoes, to see the problem, the challenge that you're facing from their point of view, is the only way you'll be able to innovate something that will actually help them. And one brilliant initiative I like to talk about is the Empathy Museum, A Mile in My Shoes. So this museum is basically an initiative where people have donated pieces of footwear, and there are headphones with a memory, some incident related to that piece of footwear. So you can walk in and take a piece of footwear and walk 1 mile in someone else's shoes, literally, and hear the story related to that piece of footwear. I think that's a really illuminating experience. Okay, now coming to a little bit about the biology behind empathy. Okay, I'm going to try an experiment with you guys. Okay, so this is a lemon. Okay, I'm going to Okay, I have a question. How many of you felt the same sourness and cringed when I was having the lemon? Can I have a show of hands? Okay, I'm going to try one thing else. This is a bottle of water. Okay, another question. How many of you felt thirsty when I held the bottle of water to drink? Okay, now my purpose behind these two experiments. So basically these two experiments explain a complex system in our brains called the mirror neuron system. And this mirror neuron system simulates action understanding and an intent behind an action, and then simulates an imitation or mirroring of the same as you would feel it. So just follow the slide with me. There are 3 main steps to the mirror neuron system. Firstly, which is not a part of the system, but the visual input that triggered all your mirror neuron systems right now, is when I held a bottle of water ready to drink. That was the visual input for all of your brains. And then the second step, which is the action or intention understanding, where you all understood that I was thirsty and I wanted to drink some water. And thirdly, the imitation or mirroring, where all of you thought that even you felt thirsty when I was drinking the water. And that is the mirror neuron system. Okay, now I've said a fair share about what empathy is. And I hope that you guys understood what it is and you want to be a little more empathic. And there's a lot of things, but I've made an acronym to make it easier to remember for myself. So my acronym for empathy, E, for eye contact. It is essential to have eye contact in a relationship so that you can understand somebody else and that person can understand you, because the eyes are windows into what we feel. M, mirroring emotions. It is very important to mirror emotions to understand what you would feel in the same situation that someone is going through right now. P, perspective taking. It is really important to take somebody's perspective as their truth. And when you hear them, hear all of what they have to say and understand their context. A, avoiding judgment. This is a little difficult because inherently we have a tendency to judge people, and so it is really important to dispel that judgment, because judgment breaks connection, and if you've judged, you've blocked any possible means of empathy. D, tone of voice. How you speak to others says a lot about you, and so it's important to have the right tone of voice when you speak to somebody. A condescending tone versus a considerate one can make the world of a difference to someone in a difficult place. H, human connection. It is us humans' tendency to connect and to empathize and try to find relations with somebody else, with all humans around us. And human connection is when we feel seen, heard, and understood by each other, and when we can derive energy from this connection. And finally, Y, you can make a change. As Max Carver said, empathy is the starting point for taking action and creating a community. It is the impetus for creating change. Empathy is like a wildfire. One single spark can start a chain reaction of compassion. Empathy can change the world, starting with just one person, and that one person can be you. Thank you.